And my mission in this lifetime is to get myself and the world to a place where all we have to give away is love, which is what the great spiritual masters taught us. And we never know. You know, sitting here in the audience with me today is the man who was with me through all of the years in the foster homes and orphanage. A man who took a different tact than I did from that experience. Became an alcoholic. Drank every day. 50, 60 years. A man who was close to suicide when he was 19 and 20 years old. This is the man who, when he was a little boy, we slept in the same bed together every day. That wherever we were sent, we went together. He was, when he was little, he was smaller than me, even though he was 16 months older. And I felt a need to protect him, but he was always my big brother, and I loved him so much. And I went away when I was 18 and joined the Navy and went overseas, and he stayed back and drank and got himself into difficulty. And ultimately, in 1961, I believe, he went into the Army and continued his drinking every day. And went to Vietnam, served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, and began to find himself. But he still drank every day and smoked 2 or 3 packs of Lucky Strikes every day. And then in Vietnam, he was awarded the United States' 4th highest honor for bravery in battle, the Bronze Star. When they were under fire, and he was a medic in Vietnam, and he watched young boys, 18 and 19 years of age, die time after time after time. Sometimes 40 and 50 bodies would come in, all shot up, and inside he was just terror-stricken. He couldn't talk about it, couldn't talk about much, because mostly what he did was drink and go within. It was hard to get any words out of him at all. And then he got out of the Army and he met his wife, Janet, and had a little boy, David Scott. And a few years ago, I think about 4 years ago now, he developed Parkinson's disease. Some say from the Agent Orange that he was exposed to in Vietnam, which they sprayed on villages and everything, and this horror, this madness that we call war, that we still participate in so foolishly. And with the onslaught of his Parkinson's disease, something began to change in David. And he started to come out of it. He started to write about it. He started to talk to me about it. And I asked him to come here. He lives in Detroit area. I asked him to drive up here with his Parkinson's disease, which he's getting under control. And believe it or not, this man that I was closest to, I call him my hero. I wrote the foreword. He wrote a book. And he brought it here with him. And he tells the story of his life and what changed him. And I'd like to bring him up here on the stage. Dave, can you come up? This is a hero. He's not only a hero militarily, but he's my hero as well. And he's written this incredible book and tells his story, and now is willing to talk about it. And Parkinson's disease, Dave, what did Parkinson's do for you? Because most people would think of this as a horrible sentence to have imposed on them, but for you it was something different.
Yes, it certainly was. When I went to the wall, to the Vietnam Memorial, and vowed that day with my son on my knees to give up alcohol in the honor of the 56,267 Americans that died in Vietnam. And I'd say at least 200 or 300 of them came through our facility. I was stationed in what they call the Central Highlands, a town of Pleiku, which was along the Cambodian border, where some of the heaviest fighting of the war took place. And it was day after day that they would be coming in, and well, anyhow, when it was over, I couldn't talk about it, as Wayne said. For 37 years, I had kept it within me. And then I continued drinking. In fact, when I found out that I had incurred Parkinson's, I couldn't take it. I couldn't believe it. And as I say, I kept drinking. And then all of a sudden, things all came together one day when I just felt like I was about to die in the morning. And my brother Jim called and invited myself and my wife and son to take this trip to Florida at his expense. And it just so happened that that same day, Wayne called, and he had no idea that Jim had called earlier, but Wayne called, and I told him that we were going to Florida, and he was happy to hear it. And I told him that we were going to rent a car because I didn't want to put the mileage on our van. And it didn't take Wayne long, but a few seconds, and he told me, he says, turn that van in and get a new one, which we did. We went on to Florida, and while I was there, I wrote the story about my Vietnam story, and when I got back home, Wayne had sent me a tape that he had made with Louise Hay. In that tape, he recalled a little girl named Martha who was with us in Mount Clemens at the boarding home back in the 1940, 46, 47. And I have a over 60-year-old scar on my wrist that reminds me of her. She accidentally stabbed me with a paring knife one day when I was trying to console her. You didn't get those kind of wounds sutured in those days. But anyhow, when Wayne sent me that tape with the words, "Do not die with your music still in you," I was home alone at the time when I played it, and it finally hit me, and I fell to the floor, and I rolled over, and I cried like a baby for hours. That night, I told my wife, Janet, and my son, my Vietnam story, and things began to change. And when I say change, everything started changing for the good. I started writing. I could, because when I gave up alcohol, I could not sleep at night. And I was up at night, and I started writing short stories. And these stories started touching people. And I couldn't believe the quality myself of the stories. And Wayne is as one of them, and some of the other Hay House authors that Janet and I met on a cruise that we went on a year and a half ago suggested that I continue writing. Cheryl Richardson, in fact, is one of the authors. And so I finally did, and I put them together, and I did write this book. And as I say, with this Parkinson's, everything has changed. Well, at the same time, I found God. And I also joined the church, our local Grosse Ile Presbyterian Church, and while doing so, I became a member of about 300 family members, as we call ourselves, and I have had some personal relationships with so many of those people that it's just unbelievable how things have changed. And now here this week, I had one of these things in my hand. It's unbelievable to me to be able to stand here and talk to all these people, but this week we had Bible school. I played the part of Ocho, who was an octopus. I had the mic in my hand, but I had a puppet in the other hand, and I was hiding underneath a bench. So they couldn't see me, but they could hear me. And there was about 50 to 100 little kids from the ages of 4 to up to 12, or the early teenagers. And I had such a thrill doing that. I just hated to see it end. And that was about the first time I've had one of these things in my hand in probably, oh God, I'd say 30 or 40 years. And now here I am in front of a couple thousand people.
And now you're done. Get out of here.
And I'm done.